Pradikji, Sahityotsav is one of the largest literature festival of this kind happening in India, in a say, because SSF Students Federation, one of the largest students movement among Muslims in Kerala, started 33 years ago. And now SSF happening everywhere from the unit level, from the family level, and it comes to unit level, then it goes to sector, then it comes to division like block, then district, then state level. Now for 5 years it is happening in national level as well. So the agenda is to channelize all this flair, the literary talent, the orational skill, everything into a moral way. And SSF is, doing appreciable job in that way. So SSF Sahityotsav, 33rd edition of Sahityotsav happening in Malappuram East. This is a historical place during the independence struggle, as I discussed you earlier. So we are privileged to have you here.
I'm very privileged.
Yeah, I would like to introduce you to the audience. In an era where misinformation travels at the speed of a click, few people have done more to defend the truth than our guest today. Through patience, evidence, and unwavering commitment to facts, he has helped millions navigate the increasingly complex world of digital misinformation. It's my privilege to have this conversation with Pratik Sinha, the co-founder and editor of Alt News, India's leading independent fact-checking platform. Pratik's journey is an extraordinary one. Trained as an electronics and communication engineer, he worked as a software engineer in the United States before returning to India. Influenced by a family deeply committed to justice, his father, the late Mughal Sinha, was a renowned Gujarat High Court lawyer and civil liberties activist. Pratik gradually shifted from technology to public service. The turning point came in 2016 after the public flogging of 4 Dalit men in Una, Gujarat. While documenting the protests that followed, he realized that social media could be used not just to spread propaganda, but also to challenge it with evidence. That realization led to the birth of Alt News in 2017, operating initially from a small room in his home in Ahmedabad. Today, Alt News has become one of India's most respected fact-checking organizations, exposing thousands of instances of fake news, manipulated images, fabricated videos, and coordinated disinformation campaigns. In 2022, the director of Peace Research Institute Oslo identified Pratik Sinha and Muhammad Zubair as worthy Nobel Prize candidates for their work combating misinformation and religious intolerance in the largest democracy in the world. His work, however, has come at a considerable personal cost. Alt News has faced sustained legal pressure and intimidation, and his co-founder was arrested and jailed. Yet Pratik has remained steadfast in his belief that facts must stand above ideology, and that the strongest defense against misinformation is not censorship, but critical thinking, media literacy, and informed citizenry. That is exactly what we will be exploring today. The battle for truth in the digital age, the challenge of independent journalism, and how each of us can develop what Pratik calls cognitive immunity against misinformation. Dear comrades, please join me in welcoming Pratik Sinha, the founder of Alt News today.
Thank you.
Yeah. Pratik, I think you may have seen the concept note of this session, second year.
Yeah, I did.
In that, it explores George Orwell, the idea of this dystopia very well. But unlike what George Orwell imagined, what we live today is like a society where state is there surveilling on us. Stronger than panopticism, Michel Foucault proposed, and there is corporate companies looking at us, and there is algorithm itself. So, working someone in the modern media premises in our country, and your experience in alt news, who do you think the big bro holding the greatest power on our digital lives? Is it government? Is it state? Is it the corporate companies? How do you think this complex area?
When George Orwell was writing his book, there was no Facebook. So, he couldn't have imagined a world with Facebook, Instagram, and so on and so forth. This is who is a bigger problem is a difficult debate. It is like a chicken and egg solution, right? Which came first? The chicken came or the egg came? And but one can definitely say that we are in a different world in the last 20 years than we were before that. Before the advent of social media, it was a different world. We know that when a politician gets onto a stage, they do not always speak the truth. They very often mislead people, claiming things which are untrue. That is one kind of propaganda. But in the last 20 years, we have seen a change world over, where now Trump is the president in United States, in UK we had the Brexit movement, so on and so forth, and India is going through a massive churn for the past 15, 20 years. And all of this, there is one constant thing in the background of all of this, and those are these platforms. Whether it is Facebook, whether it is WhatsApp, whether it is YouTube, whether it's Instagram, and how the infosphere, the information that surrounds us, that is changing our beliefs very rapidly. It is changing our societal fabric very rapidly. So one can say that the emergence of platforms has actually shifted the world in another direction. It's a different matter that when you give a knife to someone, you can either use it to chop vegetables or use it for a murder. And our politicians have chosen murder, so.
We are the largest democracy in the world, as I mentioned earlier. Our Bademian advertises it as the mother of democracy. And it's nice. Right? Actually, it's a hotline like Kerala, the God's own country. Congratulations to the copy editor out there in the PR department of our big brother. But at the same time, fact-checking has increasingly become the higher risking profession of service in our country. Your co-founder Zubair was legally, faced so many cases in several parts of the country. He was jailed while both of you were subjected to the coordinated online harassment. So it is often, we can say, online fact checkers are facing so much pressure from different directions. Sometimes it is legal, sometimes it is online attacks, and there is a credibility question also coming. I mean, constant accusation that you are biased towards some end. So how are you finding all these things? I mean, is this some kind of strengthening matter to you or weakening matter to you? How all independent journalism can move forward when these kind of things are happening around them?
Firstly, I feel that anyone who is doing any kind of critical work in this country is facing the ire of the government. It is not just me or Zubair. Zubair spent 22 days in jail in 2022. But we have Umar Khalid who's still in jail. We have, even journalists from Kerala. They were arrested in UP, this particular journalist, Siddhi Kapan, and he spent a couple of years in jail. There are many people, and forget Kashmir. Kashmir, there are so many people in jail indefinitely, people from Kashmir. So the Indian state at this point in time is not tolerant to any critical views. And that is why anyone who's doing any critical work has to know that if they're getting into this space, then there will be, that the Indian state will look at them, will surveil them, will do anything to stop them. That is number one. But at the same point in time, critical work has to go on. And for that, you have to be very strategic. You have to, for example, if you look at all the independent media organizations that are there presently, they are small organizations. They are running small teams with small budgets, not massive budgets. And a lot of their money is coming either through donations or subscriptions. That is the main thing about independent media is that for a media to be independent, the money that it gets has to be independent. That is the meaning of independent media. The money that it comes should not come with any kind of influence, should not come with any kind of promises. And so, no strings attached. The money should have no strings attached. And the few organizations who have been able to figure that out, that is how to fund your organization with money that has no strings attached, are being able to run independent media organizations. But at the same point in time, it is very necessary to know what is the strategy of the government to attack you. Number one is financial. You have to keep your finances very, very clean. Because that is, or else you will, even if it looks wrong, it does not have to be wrong. Even if it looks wrong, then there will be a ED raid on your doorstep or a IT raid on your doorstep. Even if it looks wrong, because that's all it is needed. There are so many cases which go to the court and all of them fall because they get arrested, they stay in jail, their businesses go down, the organizations go down, and finally the court says that nothing wrong has been done. So that is number one. Number two, when you're running a media organization, at least my belief is that you should do what you're good at. Like, for example, I cannot do a report from Bastar. I cannot do, I'm not a trained reporter, but I'm a trained engineer. And the world of algorithms, and I love this collage, the world of algorithms, the world of social media, and how it is failing humanity at large. And as a software engineer, I understand what they could have done, and they have chosen not to do. They did not have to make the algorithms in a way that it is only about profit, right? There could have been many other ways in which the algorithms could have been made, but they have made algorithms which are only about profit, only about feasting on validation, only about feasting on attention. And that world, I understand, that world Zubair understands, both of us are engineers, and hence we are able to run an organization which has been able to produce some credibility. That is, there are certain quarters who believe that we do good work. But as far as the lack of the accusations that we are biased, etc. See, in a polarized world, we are a polarized country at this point in time, and there will be those accusations. At the end of the day, what does data speak? Do we fact check all political parties? The answer is yes. Do we fact check members of all political parties? Have we fact checked Narendra Modi and Rahul Gandhi and Arvind Kejriwal? The answer is yes. So those accusations will be there, but it is not, that is the reality of a polarized world, and it does not have to be entertained all the time. We have to keep doing our work, and the impact of it is shown in different ways. In just the way that the government goes after you shows that you are impactful, essentially.
One of the most worrying aspects of misinformation in India is The misinformation, fake news, all these things are being used as a classic device of propaganda. Which we categorize as in the 1937, the classic techniques of propaganda, like labeling, there is patronage, and so many things. And it is happening to a particular community in our country, and it is, taking place as a center of all the political debates going around, whether it is election or not. It is happening like that. So to otherize a particular community, everything. So what I have found very, noticing in your work, when Sulli deals controversy happened during the pandemic, that was so horrifying, so unfortunate. And when investigation started, so the investigation got derailed, they wanted to do something else. Then Alt News did a very good job, and it came on the track. So I want to share this in the Malayalam to the audience as well. നമ്മൾ ഇന്ന് സംസാരിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന പ്രതീക് സിൻഹയുടെ ഏറ്റവും വലിയ പ്രസക്തിയായിട്ട് ഞാൻ കാണുന്നൊരു സംഗതി, കോവിഡിൻ്റെ സമയത്ത് രാജ്യത്ത് വളരെ ശ്രദ്ധേയരായ മുസ്ലിം ചെറുപ്പക്കാരികളെ ഓൺലൈനിൽ ലേലത്തിന് വെച്ച സുള്ളി ഡീൽസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു ആപ്പിനെ കുറിച്ചൊരു വലിയ വിവാദം ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. നമ്മളൊന്ന് ആലോചിച്ച് നോക്കണം. പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് ആൻറ്റി CA മൂവ്മെൻറ്റിൻ്റെയൊക്കെ മുമ്പിലുണ്ടായിരുന്ന പെൺകുട്ടികളായ മുസ്ലിങ്ങളെ, അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ജേർണലിസ്റ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള സ്ത്രീകളെയൊക്കെ, മുസ്ലിം സ്ത്രീകളെ ഓൺലൈനിൽ ലേലത്തിന് വെച്ചൊരു വിവാദം, സുള്ളി ഡീൽസ്, അതുപോലെ ബുള്ളി ബായ് തുടങ്ങിയ ആപ്പുകൾ. അതുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് വിവാദങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടാകുമ്പോൾ അന്വേഷണങ്ങൾ നടന്നു. അന്വേഷണങ്ങൾ തിരിച്ച് ചില വെസ്റ്റഡ് ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റിലോട്ട് വരുന്നു എന്ന് കണ്ടപ്പോൾ ഓൾട്ട് ന്യൂസിൻ്റെ ഇടപെടലുകൾ ഇല്ലായിരുന്നുവെങ്കിൽ അത് കൂടുതൽ അപകടകരമായ രീതിയിലേക്ക് പോയേനെ. ദിനേന എന്നോണം രാജ്യത്ത് നടന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന അനേകം വിഷയങ്ങളിൽ, വ്യാജ വാർത്തകളിൽ, വ്യവഹാരങ്ങളിൽ കൃത്യമായി ഇടപെട്ടുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ് ഓൾട്ട് ന്യൂസ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ ഇവർ ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന സർവീസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന, സേവനം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് വൺ ഓഫ് ദി മോസ്റ്റ് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻറ്റ് ടു നാഷണൽ ഇൻ്റഗ്രേഷൻ ആസ് ഐ അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡ്. So coming back to my question, so this is happening as a cycle. So how do you find something to break this cycle, to end this kind of targeting one community, or all this misinformation, fake news, all these narratives happening just for that, to otherize a particular community? How do you understand this method?
Again, we should partly go back to the first question, the chicken and egg question. And whether it's the platforms or the government. Now, this targeting of communities is not limited to India. In the US, they are targeting Mexicans. In Europe, they are targeting the immigrants. In India, the Muslims are being targeted. And partly the Christians are being targeted. And of course, Dalit Adivasis are being targeted. So, this mechanism of someone in power who has access to a huge amount of capital being able to weaponize a platform where the more amount of money you spend, the more people you can reach. Earlier, for example, when there was no social media, for you to reach, newspaper will go to every home, right? Front page story for everyone. But now, the first story that you see on your social media feed, or the first advertisement that you see on your social media feed, that is not the same for everyone. And that will depend on who has the money power, right? And it is the people in power who are becoming richer and richer and richer. The political parties are gaining more wealth. They are using that wealth to make more propaganda for themselves. So it has become a vicious cycle. And knowing that divisive tactics are the easiest, cheapest political tactics. You don't have to do any work. You don't have to give water. You don't have to give food. You don't have to reduce petrol prices. You don't have to do anything. The most cheapest political tactic in terms of labor, that you don't have to really work for the people, is by saying that this community is hurting this community. And that we have seen in history, that is the cheapest political tactic. But with social media, it becomes very easy. Because you can do this 24/7. You can bring a video from somewhere in North Africa and say that this video is from Kerala, where one community is hurting another community. You can get a photo from UP and say that it is a photo of Kerala. You can get a photo of Kerala and say that this is a photo of Bengal. And of course there is deep fake now, there is AI. So the world of technology is being shaped in a way where, number one, if you think of who controls the world of technology, there are two companies who control the entire smartphone industry, Apple and Google. If you pick a phone today, then it's either an Apple phone or an Android phone. If you install an app today, either you're installing an Apple app or an Android app. If you're going on social media, then Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, all are Meta. So there are a group of 7 to 8 companies which have become billion-dollar companies. They have more money than GDPs of countries. And they are the ones who are controlling the fate of humanity at this point in time. And their only desire is to make more money. For what reason, I don't know. But their only desire is to become richer and a bigger company and a bigger company. And this too has become a very toxic cocktail where humanity and social fabric is being crushed, where one human being is pitted against another human being. And basically, when we were, let's say, living in the forest, at that point of time, fear was a very important emotion, because we are surrounded by wild animals. There was no, this is back then, centuries ago when we were living in the forest. So humans developed the emotion of fear to be alert. Now, that same emotion is being used against each other. Instead of us fearing wild animals who may eat us, because right now there are no wild animals anywhere near humans, we are turning that emotion where one human being will fear another human being. And again, that is something that social media excels in, because any kind of provocative emotion, hatred, fear, anger, these have a lot of velocity on social media, and that is why you see so much trolling. It is very easy to go and say anything to anyone on social media because there's no accountability. In this community, in people who are sitting here, you are accountable to another person is accountable to another person. But you are not accountable to someone sitting in Canada. In this community, you will be careful of what you say, what you don't say. But let's say if you're talking to someone in Canada who you don't know, you are not accountable to them. So what we have also done is that we have brought the world population, which is used to living in communities, in small communities where there was accountability, and now we have made it a 7 billion people community where there can be no accountability. We are only accountable to our close people, to our close group. We are not accountable to rest of the world. But this dream that was sold to us by all these people, from Mark Zuckerberg to the owners of Google, everything, that let's connect 7 billion people and that will change the world. It has changed the world, and it has made this world a terrible place to live in.
They wanted to make interactivity between people, and it happened to be interpassivity, where the suspicion is going on. When we talk about the fear,
I want to add one more thing, and especially because there are many students here, they will go to do many things. It is very important to know that it is impossible to understand the whole world and do not make a product for the whole world. It is because some people sitting in the US, they are going to all these Ivy League universities. Mark Zuckerberg is from Harvard. The Google founders are from Stanford. Someone else is from somewhere else. They think that because they have a degree, they understand the world. And that they can create a product which will address the entire world. And that has been the undoing, become the undoing of what we see around us. Because Mark Zuckerberg decides, for example, after Trump came into power, he decided that fact checking is not needed. And they removed fact checking from Facebook and are trying to bring community notes. Immediately the misinformation went up, hate speech went up. Mark Zuckerberg, a few years back, he came on NBC and said that politicians are already overly scrutinized, let's not fact check politicians. Now, this is a person sitting in Palo Alto in California who has no idea about the world, but we are using a product which is based on their idea. So, we also have to start thinking about creating products which are not about the world, but about the community, where we cannot keep depending on products created by people who have no understanding about our community, our culture, our history, our weaknesses, our strengths.
Yeah. When we talk about the politics of fear, we were taught Radhika Subramanian's culture of suspicion. It is a very important study to understand how the politics of misinformation happening around in India. And that study is about how certain riots happened in Mumbai during the post-Babari 1992 riots. So it's very important to understand how Indian communities used to live together, and just a spark caused suspicion, and they started doubting each other. The suspicion getting bigger and bigger, and it leads to something which is very unfortunate. And one of my fellow researchers in Jamia, she pursued her PhD in a Scandinavian university. Her PhD proposal was about how certain WhatsApp groups orchestrated 2020 Northeast Delhi riots. See, so what I understand as a biggest challenge you people face is, you correct individual area of misinformation, how it is going. You can go and fact check certain things. But it is very important to reach out to the people who are not trusting you, who already distrust your area. So reaching out to them is a big challenge when algorithm works in another way. So how are you going to tackle all these things? Because you're reaching out to the people you already believe in you, already looking at you to get some information about certain things. But there are millions of people out there in India who have no idea about what is they are getting every day in the morning. So how are you going to tackle these kind of algorithm obstacles?
I think we need a different strategy. To answer your question, can I reach out to, forget someone who's not trusting us, but can I reach out to someone, let's say in a small town in India? I cannot. Because the reach, who we can reach is decided by the algorithm. And who we can reach is also decided by how much money we put into advertisements. Now, Alt News as an organization is run on donations. We have no money to put on advertisements. But Republic TV has a lot of money to put on advertisements. Times Now has a lot of money to put on advertisements. News 18 is owned by Ambani and NDTV is owned by Adani. They have a lot of money to put on advertisements. We don't. So, is it possible for us to reach people at large? No, it is not. So, then I think we have to, as people who are concerned, we have to start thinking of a different strategy. And again, I feel that community should own communication. That different communities, it is important for different communities to communicate within the community and around the community. Not just within the community, but and around the community. This centralized form of dissemination of information can only be controlled by the powerful. To disseminate information which is equal, where there is some equality, then it has to be decentralized. It cannot be centralized. So we have to start thinking in ways of bringing back concepts like, for example, community radio. It has to be community based. It is impossible for people who are doing critical work, who will never have money, to reach out to a larger population in a centralized form of communication.
So you are talking about people have to distance from certain kind of medias and they have to do their own community mediation.
Yes, of course. Firstly,
Is that possible?
is it, I don't think there is another alternative. There is no need to watch Times Now. There's no need to watch Republic TV. There's no need to watch all of these organizations. And it is important that communities own everything. There was a time when I was growing up when there was no Gmail, for example. Organizations used to have their own email hosting services, right? So you will have your organizational email. All of that is gone. Now everything is Gmail or on Google Apps. What I'm trying to say is that we have to go back to the roots of community, and where, let's say, every community has a media cell of its own which is informing its people. And we are not dependent on a media cell which is centralized, which is controlled by an Ambani or Adani. If we keep depending on that, then there is no solution. We have to become self-sovereign, self-dependent. And when I'm talking about sovereignty, I'm not just talking about a country. I'm talking about the commons, the community.
Yeah, considering the scenario in Kerala, most of the medias are owned by these communities. The religious communities, political communities. So if I am watching a channel or reading a newspaper which my community is bringing up, then there is another problem, as I understand. Again, you are understanding something that you people saying. Again, you are missing the point. The other perspective is also missing there.
Of course. So that is also part of media literacy, where you don't consume information from only one source. You have to consume information from multiple sources to make a point of view. That is a different process of how you consume media. But it is if you take in your information from one source, that will always fail. So that is the question of how to be a media literate person. And the first thing of being a media literate person is not to just consume information from one source. But having said that, still community newspapers, community radios, community magazines, all of this still play a very important role and should play a much more important role for the communities to themselves own their communication systems.
Yeah, at least to counter. Televisions continue to be the most important source of, news source to the millions of Indians in our country right now. And the challenge is that televisions, this industry became, something as the largest carrier of misinformation, the prime time debates, the sensationalization of certain things. All this is getting to this misinformation, the pushing misinformation and fake news. So, as someone who is working there in media premises, what do you think? Is this something that journalism can recover from in our country, or does it reflect the deeper, scary, structural crisis of our media industry?
It surely shows a deeper structural crisis, but journalism can recover if we identify the deeper structural crisis. What is the deeper structural crisis? That monopoly capitalists are owning media organizations, and monopoly capitalists and government are friends. It is not very difficult to understand that every big media organization in India, their proprietors actually have many other business interests. Zubair and I are directors of Alt News. Alt News is not even a private limited company. Alt News is a Section 8 company. It's a not-for-profit company. What does that mean? A not-for-profit company, I or Zubair, my mother is also the managing director, Nirjari SINHA, we cannot take profit out of the company. Legally, we cannot. All we do is get a salary, and which is reported. If you search, you can find what my salary is, right? So then there is accountability automatically. I cannot take a crazy salary from the money that is coming through donation. Now, so this is a structure. We have built a structure for ourselves where it is very difficult to sell off. Okay? Most of the media companies, not most, almost all, are private limited companies. Their main, alt news gets its money from donations. We get 500 rupees, 1000 rupees, 2000 rupees, so on and so forth. Most of the media organizations, they run through advertisers. And so a Baba Ramdev will advertise, someone else will advertise. And now these advertisers, they are big business people. They want to run their business. Now, the government will tell them, stop advertising here because they are being critical. So, there is a problem in this advertiser-run journalism model. That is the structural problem. If we move away from that, there are five. I'm not saying we are the solution, but I'm saying we are the example. Right? Whether it's Wire, whether it's News Laundry, whether it is News Minute, whether it is Alt News, or there is Reporters Collective, or Article 14. All of these are examples that when you move away from big money, you can actually do independent journalism and you can do some of the best stories. You don't need a lot of money. You don't need the BBC kind of money to do good stories. You can do good stories even in less money. You can break big stories even in less money. And so there is definitely much hope for journalism because there are examples of how journalism can be done and it is being done. Is there any hope from mainstream media journalism? The answer is no.
It is to free this journalism from the political economy of the class. Yeah, I happened to see this reel of a series, Amazon Prime series, Call Me Bay. Fire D'Souza plays a cameo role in that, and her character tells to the character of Ananya Pandey that, dear, if you want to see the journalism, just turn off your TV. There is no more journalism out there. And what I gather is actually Ravish Kumar came out.
It is actually Ravish Kumar's original thought. Ravish Kumar keeps saying that if you want to save journalism, then turn off the TV.
Yeah. So Fire D'Souza came out, so many people came out, and they started, actually their contents are reaching to an audience larger than the mainstream media has acquired. So, but again, now people are talking about there should be a regulation on this independent, YouTubers, social media things. Again, so regulation, the urge to regulate the truth is, getting bigger and bigger. If there is a parliament session is going on, so the law minister, the IT minister, they want to hook some law to regulate something. That is happening. So, when we talk about the future for the independent journalism, again we are going to see these kind of regulation at one side, and see what happened when the Wire exposed the SR fuel deal. They got a 150 crore defamation. Yeah. So that is happening. So how this is going to end in a way?
So we have to tackle these differently in parts. Defamation is a different part. We also get defamation suits and all of that. Defamation is a different part. But the original question that, what was the original question?
Yeah, the regulations.
The regulation. See, again, when you have to think, when we are thinking of independent journalism, we also have to think infrastructure of journalism. That what is the infrastructure being used by journalism? It so happens that a fellow journalist friend of mine, Neha Dikshit, she was messaging just yesterday. Her partner runs a program in Western UP where he shows videos, Nakul Singh Sahni. And he also puts out a lot of videos on YouTube. And she messaged me day before asking me, because we met once and I said that while you are putting things on YouTube, also put things on something called PeerTube. Now PeerTube is a decentralized platform, right? Where you can, again, you own your own platform. And it is very easy for someone to go and say, ban Hindutva Watch, right? Or withhold Hindutva Watch in India, withhold Cockroach Janata Party in India. But let's say if you were owning your own platform, then it is not possible to say that. It is not Facebook. In a day, yesterday I was on social, I was looking through Twitter, and I saw this new person who's become popular on Instagram. Her name is Shrishti Khanna, and her Instagram account has been taken down overnight. Why is this happening? Again, the story is the same, that we have centralized platforms which need to be friends with the government, and there will be regulation, and these platforms will blindly follow this regulation, whatever the government puts out. So we have to come out and make decentralized platforms, community-based solutions for the regulation, not to overpower us.
When we talk about the fact checking, fact checking became very useful in a way to preserve democracy, we can say in that way. At the same time, government started their own fact checking thing. I remember in 2022, the IT Act
around
came,
that time, PIB fact check.
PIB opened a fact checking unit, and it started. So see, every time government wants to censor it, but it will argue that strict regulations and laws should be there to curtail the misinformation. But what is being curtailed, it's not misinformation. Fake is there, false is there, but misleading is there. What is misleading? Misleading, again, which is government doesn't like. So now government starts fact checking. So how this, the debate between something should be censored, something should be protecting the freedom of expression.
My understanding is that law cannot solve societal problems. Society, you cannot create new and new laws to solve societal problems. For example, if there is violence against women, you bring as many laws, it does not reduce the violence against women, right? There are newer and newer laws in this country about violence against women, but violence against women continues, right? So bringing of new laws does not solve things which are structural. Similarly, even if we desire, the government, it is very obvious why the government wants to bring a new law, because they want to censor. But every time I go to a meeting, I am asked, should there not be a law? They are saying, someone is saying something, and should there not be a law? And my response is that law cannot solve this situation. Law will only give power in the hands of the government. Who executes the law? The government executes the law. If someone is doing propaganda for the government, then government is not going to arrest them. Government is only going to arrest people who are critical, and that is why people like Zubair end up in jail, right? So stop asking for a law. Law is not going to solve the situation. Our problem is more structural, and we have to fix the structural issue. Law is for law and order. It is not to fix the society.
Yeah, it was a very thoughtful conversation, I would say. But I want to ask you something. When I look up something on social media and internet, I have seen the Una incident actually influenced you very much. So we can understand that social media, realization of social media as a very powerful tool to counter so many things. But fact checking, how did you reach there? The idea of fact checking, and there are things circulated, so we have to fact check everything. So this idea of fact checking,
it was around 2013-14. I started fact checking. I started a website called Truth of Gujarat. Actually, I helped my father start that website called Truth of Gujarat. And before 2014 elections, there was already misinformation going on. For example, there were pictures of Gujarat going around saying that, oh, this is Gujarat, whereas I am from Ahmedabad and I know this is not Ahmedabad. So at that point of time, I was still working as a software engineer, but I published a few articles where I showed that this photo is not from here. This photo is actually from elsewhere. That, Subramaniam Swami, I remember a fan page of his had posted a photo of Bangladesh saying Hindus are being beaten up. And I showed that no, this is political violence, it is not violence between communities. So because I was spending a lot of time thinking about politics and being an online person, I was looking at all of this that is happening, and for me it was very easy because I knew how to find the source of an image. I knew how to find the source of a video. But I thought that no one else is doing that. So then I started putting out on social media that this photo is actually from here, this video is actually from here. Then at some point of time, Zubair and I met, and Zubair was running this page called Susu Swami. And then we used to meet often, and we thought, why not do this in an organized manner? And that is how Alt News was born, because I felt that certain skill, which is a very simple skill. It is a very, very simple skill. Anyone can learn all those skills in 2 days of training. But that skill was not there I think it is still not there at people at large. And so I felt that it is something that I can use to show that what kind of manipulation is happening on social media.
See, and what I appreciate is that apart from the fact checking, the efforts to build a community with media literacy and this consciousness, the awareness about all these things, that's very appreciable from your side.